usually when I talk to her, I talk about, so your revenue was this, and then your expenses were that, and she's very respectful. She gives me wonderful answers. I'm sure she's been media trained at the Yin Yang, and I can always tell when a CEO's been media trained. But I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of a different approach today, because I felt like that's usually what people hear. I know someone said, you get asked stuff like, about your family and your personal life and things like that. And usually when I talk to you, it's all about money. And I feel like usually when people read stories that you've been quoted, you're talking about the money. You're talking about we're expanding, we're opening this many new stores and things like that. I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive into your role as CEO.
I feel like this is Oprah.
I know, right? But not everybody's getting a car. But you did get good swag bags. It is not easy to be CEO. For my little bitty tiny company, Green Market Report, CEO for 4 years, and even with just that, it was hard. It was so hard. It's not for everyone. So I just want to know from you, how did you know you could tackle this, take this on, and how were you able to get from that mindset of, I'm going to do this, but then actually get it done?
That's a big question. I think that, first of all, there are days and moments and times where I don't think that I can get it done. That happens often, right? And I think that as a woman in particular, I think that there's, and I don't know, because I guess I've never been a man, so comparative probably doesn't work, but I do feel like it's a common theme when I talk to other women that we often question a little bit more, right? Am I supposed to be in this seat? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Is it appropriate for me to speak or for me to, take that seat at the table? I know I'm supposed to, right? We all know, and we can talk about that today, that we're supposed to feel empowered, we're supposed to, rise up. But that doesn't mean that every single day in every single situation, I'm 100% confident or comfortable doing that. So, but you know what? I've gotten to a place where it's kind of you fake it till you make it, sister, and you sit your butt down and you use your voice and you let it roll. And so I think for me early on, I think I looked at our team and it was kind of if not me, then who? And I knew it was the moment that I had an opportunity. It was an incredible opportunity. And goddamn it, I was going to seize it. And so it was really that mindset, I would say. And in terms of a go-forward basis, I reach new, it doesn't stop. So, and I think it's kind of interesting, this is a different topic, so I don't want to go too far off down the rabbit hole, but we talk, and I've heard the term used here, corporate cannabis. It's so funny. We started as a startup in 2014 with 10 employees. I was filling capsules and doing manual, transfers, and my office is the conference room table of our grow operation, and I wasn't paid a salary for years, and we were in debt, and all of those things. And so, we scaled the business from that startup to now. So this whole juxtaposition that I'm now navigating in terms of Kim's corporate cannabis, and it's so weird. But I mean, I am, right? But anyway, so I think that we hit different growth hurdles all the way along in our journey, and I don't expect that to stop. And in each growth phase, there's new challenges. And as a female leader, it is hard. And there are some days that really suck, and there are some days that are amazing. Like today would be an amazing day. The energy, the camaraderie, the sisterhood in this room is empowering, and it's amazing. It reminds me of why I'm so thankful and feel so blessed to be in this industry. But that doesn't happen every day, right? There's lots of days where I don't see any women, And so, anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, but I would just say that it's a battle, and it's a purposeful and intentional battle within myself, often.
She brought up a really good point, and I think you actually glossed over it. The fact that you started out with 10 employees, and now what do you have? Over 1,000?
9,000.
Okay. Well. As a financial reporter, I often write about stories where founders are politely asked to leave. It's not easy to make the transition from founder to CEO, and then CEO of really big company. That's usually when they say, we're going to bring in the CEO of General Mills or Coca-Cola, some other giant company that's not cannabis, but they've got experience at the CEO level. What was the hardest part for you to make that transition? Because now you're not only a big giant company, you're a publicly traded company, which brings a whole nother level of skill.
Yeah, and anyone here who ever wants to talk about that navigation from private to public, that is something that I am very passionate about and would be happy to talk to you about, because it is a very different, it's a different arena, and it does bring into your life a lot of different, to your point, responsibilities and requirements and whatnot that folks I don't think necessarily always consider before making that jump. Again, would be more than happy and would love to talk to you about it, because we do need more women CEOs in the public company space. But to answer your question, the hardest part, there have been a number of hard parts. I would say, considering the pace of growth in this industry, which I think all of you know, is insane. And we talk about the fast pace, but until you're in it, you can't really explain to someone. I think that's a challenge that I have, is making sure that I myself am continuing to level up and making sure that I'm keeping up and that I'm constantly asking myself and challenging myself, am I the right person in this role for this moment, for the next, whatever that growth trajectory looks like, or that milestone looks like for our company. We have come to Jesus meetings, that's what we call it, in our team, on an annual basis, where we sit down and we, in a room, the C-suite, and we look at one another and we say, okay, this is a trust tree. We need to be honest with one another. These are our goals for the next 1-3 years, really in cannabis, that's an eternity. So that's far enough. And we all need to make sure that we're in this and we're in the boat together, and that we're committed to making the sacrifices, doing what needs to be done, digging in, right, to get us from point A to point B. And it is not unusual that in those conversations someone expresses the fact that, hey, you know what, I've talked to my family, and we take time, go to your family, talk to them, really, right, make sure that you are able to make that commitment, because it's not for the faint of heart. And I think for me, I don't have a CEO, right? I have a board. They're fantastic, by the way. We just crossed a very important threshold to me, and that we now have 50% representation of women on our board. Y'all, that took a minute, okay? Just so you know, that took a minute, because we were, basically our founder board was ag guys from, the Panhandle of Florida. So that transition, that's also interesting. Anyway, I'm gonna write a book someday. So there are many lessons learned there, but I think for me, it's holding myself accountable and making sure that I'm having those honest conversations and looking in the mirror and making sure that, to your point, I am continuing to level up, and I am learning and I am challenging myself and my skill set, because the business can grow out from underneath you. And it happens to great leaders all the time within our organization and others, and having honest conversations about what that looks like and how you're prepared to take that next level of growth, I think is critical.
Because you're the CEO of Trulieve, it's almost like you might as well call it Target, because you got a target on your back. Yeah, like you said, you're corporate cannabis, and you take a lot of beatings on social media. And I was just curious, I know for me as a journalist, it comes with the territory. I expect to get an email that says I'm an idiot, I expect to get somebody on Twitter telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm just so used to it, it's just comical now. But it's gotta be, I mean, it had to have been just tough for you to go from, I'm this quiet person in this 10-person, business, and I'm just trying to build a business, and now all of a sudden I got people attacking me on social media and saying nasty things about how do you deal with that?
I do some nice things too, and I've never been quiet, so,
I read them and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, so a couple things. I would say that first you have to have a tough skin. But to be a woman in business, you have to have a tough skin. If you don't have a tough skin, like you're not in this room, I feel like, and that shouldn't be a requirement, but unfortunately in the society that we live in today, it is. And so I always look at, and again, for those of you who don't know my background, I'm a recovering lawyer. I have always been, it's a 10-step program, I think I'm on step 8 maybe, but I'm always of the mindset, this goes back into being like a mindset warrior in terms of, you set your intention, you set and manifest your success, and I'm not gonna let some random person that I don't know, that I've never met, that's hiding behind a keyboard, stop that journey. Like, that's ridiculous, right? So that's not gonna happen. We literally have a quote that we write on the whiteboard, on whiteboards that says, don't be, are you afraid of Reddit? Question mark. And really, because sometimes it can challenge your teams, right? People let social media start to dictate in this little small chamber that is, yes, a representative ecosystem. It can be a signal for sentiment. So I actually prefer reading, I'm crazy. I prefer reading negative comments over positive ones because that is an opportunity to turn that no into a yes. So I ran all of our social media for years, personally responded. Last Black Friday, before last, we had a total platform meltdown, 100+ stores on manual transactions. Yes. Thousands of customers who were frustrated, rightly so, long ass wait times, the whole 9 yards. And my C-suite, we were in the war room from 6 a.m. until 1 a.m. and then back the next morning at 6 a.m. until 1 a.m. calling, reaching out, talking to customers through that entire time period. So for me, I love the challenge of taking something negative and making it a positive. And I think that, I just choose to use that fuel to continue to fire me up and to propel me forward and to look for, okay, is this something that actually is pointing something out that we need to be more cognizant of, that we actually need to dig into and we need to, remedy or fix? Or is this just some hater that haters gonna hate and thank you for it and I'll take that and I'll put that into my fuel bucket and use that to propel me forward? It fits into one of two categories. And I think you just, for me, again, it goes back to being able to see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, that's a great story in the sense of the amount of time you had to put into that fire that you had to put out.
Oh,
and that's, and so there's a sacrifice you have to make when you choose to be CEO. Again, not for everyone, because you're having to be the person. You're the last stop. You're the decision maker. Everyone's looking at you going, what are we gonna do, Kim? And they're all looking at you, and you gotta come up with an answer. Now you've got a good team, but it does come at some personal cost. So maybe that's something you can address here with everyone, because I think sometimes when we are running these businesses, we feel very alone, and we feel pressure that, the cat box hasn't been changed, it's starting to smell and we really need to change it, but when am I gonna go to the store and get more cat, just dumb stuff like that, but you start to feel overwhelmed that you can't run your life because you're choosing to run your company, and it's this balance that's really hard to strike.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm a mom, right? And so I all the things. My son just turned 12. My stepdaughter just turned 10. I've got 2 dogs, one who's a maniac, he's a Vizsla, if anybody has a Vizsla, so he's an absolute nut. And so, absolutely, I mean, But to be clear, and I just want to be clear about this, there's sacrifices that we all make regardless of the size of our business. Hard stop, okay? I mean, when we were 10 people, I was filling capsules on Christmas Eve, right? And worried, like, how the hell is Santa gonna get the presents out, right? And calling in my mom, you know, but I don't want to come from a place that I don't think that's unique. I likely don't think that's unique in this room, right? I think that we make sacrifices as women in business, and I think that for me, it's about where are those boundaries drawn. So I refuse to miss one of my son's tennis matches. I just refuse. So it's blocked on my calendar. It's a hard no. I'm not sure where I gotta be. I better be back because I'm gonna see him. He only plays like 6 matches or whatever in a year, and I'm gonna see him play tennis. And so that's it. Like, I mean, and clapping or not clapping, okay, but you can clap. But then, hey, when the house is burning down, and you know I'm supposed to be at this investor conference, and all of my peer set is at that investor conference, and all the other guys and all the other MSOs are presenting, and they expect to see Kim Rivers, right? They're not going to see me for that, and that's so it's a balance, right? And I think that having, knowing where those lines are, it can't be it's tennis and it's this and it's this and it's this and it's this. That doesn't work, right? And so, you know, sacrifices are made all the time in both directions. And I just would say that for me, it's been all about me taking control of those boundaries that are important to my family, or that I feel are important to my family, and having real conversations on the other side too, right? With my son, so he understands, no, I'm not gonna be there every night to tuck you in. I'm not gonna be there every time, you know, you have a school play. I'm not gonna be there, and here's why, this is what I'm doing. And he's invested in the business with me, right? He's invested in my success. And you just do the best you can, but damn it, it's hard, y'all. I mean, it just is, and it sucks, and shit falls apart sometimes. And you know what? That's okay too. And that goes into, you know, who's your support system, and who do you have around you that can prop you back up when it all gets real messy real fast, right? Which can happen.
Yes, it can. Someone brought up something earlier today about, I felt like the question had to do with credibility and walking in a room and hoping that, you know, and trying to get people to understand that you're a person with skill set and education and knowledge and experience, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, wow, when Kim Rivers walks in the room, she's got sway, she's got swagger because she's got this big company. I'm sure you have a story where you thought that, where you went into a room like, yeah, I've got the biggest cannabis company in the country, and someone just dissed you. Or was like, is the CEO? Oh, you're the CEO. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How do you, I'm sure you address it with grace and dignity, but I'm sure it still happens. Does it still happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. You know, so when we went public, I mean, I don't know, and it's interesting, it's funny. When we went public, we were known as, you know, the little company in Florida. I was this, I think, I was the girl, right, in the room who was trying to take this, you know, this company in Florida public, and I was asked all the time, 343 times, where's your map slide? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We make more profit than any of these companies put together. And just because you have one store in California, that whole total addressable market thing doesn't mean a damn thing, because it's how many people you can get through your registers. Anyway, so that conversation happened a lot. And so there was a period of time where I was definitely looked at as the kind of aside. It was like all the big players and, oh yeah, then there's this other company. It was really funny, so I'm gonna tell you all the stories. Pretty funny. I was up in Zynga actually a number of years ago, and I was set to speak, and I had come in early to listen to the panel before me, and it was a company from California that was trying to come into Florida. They had hired models, so they had girls in bikinis all over the room. A guy in board shorts that was giving this pitch about how they were in Cali and they did cannabis and nobody in Florida knew what they were doing, and it was like a Trulieve bashing show. Like, our logo was on the screen, like the whole thing, but he didn't know who I was. And so I sat through this presentation, like watching this entire thing unfold, and everyone, like people that knew me, like it was one of those, like looking at me, and I have to stay, what am I supposed to, what do you do? And so I'm just sitting there politely like, oh, okay, interesting point. Oh, actually, that's fair. Like, and then he got up to leave, and I just walked down the center aisle, and I said, oh, hi, it's so nice to meet you. I'm Kim Rivers, the CEO of Trulieve. I thought your presentation was fascinating. And he said, oh, Kim, yeah, we look forward to competing with you in Florida. I said, yeah, absolutely. The more the merrier. Here's my card. Let's chat. And that was kind of it. And so, yeah, there definitely have been those moments. That was probably the most extreme. And the girls in the bikini, it was a scene, y'all. It was pretty funny.
I'm curious, because obviously you guys...
They never came to Florida. That's the
You guys have gone to the capital markets before. I used to work at Bear Stearns. I was in Wall Street for many years. I was often the only woman in the room at many, many meetings. Did you kind of feel that kind of pressure during the fundraising levels?
Oh my gosh.
We touched on that a little bit today.
Oh my gosh, so there was one meeting, this wasn't actually that long ago. There was one meeting that I was on the road with Needham, which is an investment banking company or firm, and there was one meeting, where this gentleman who is an investment analyst, and we're going through the deck, and he's not listening to me, and then we got to our profitability slide, and he looks at me and goes, wait, you did this? You did this. He's like 7 years old. This? And I was like, yeah. Well, not me, but I'm the CEO of a company. We've talked about everything we do. He's like, wow, that's amazing. But I'm looking at him like, bro, I've been talking to you for the last 30 minutes about what we do. And all of a sudden, and it was the way he said, right, that, wait, you blonde hair, did this, that it just, so yes, I will say that's the most blatant, but oftentimes it was, when I walk into the room and my CFO is with me or what have you, initially, it was very much expected that maybe I wouldn't be the one who was presenting, right? And that the CFO would be presenting. Y'all, 2 weeks ago, we had a M&A target in our office, and the feedback from one of my team members was, well, the guy basically said that he was very impressed and he realized that the rumors weren't true. And I said, I'm sorry, what rumors? What is he talking about? Oh, the rumors that you're actually just a face and that you prop up, right, and don't really know the depth of the offer. That was 2 weeks ago. So yeah, shit happens all the time.
And that drives me nuts because I didn't want to go there. I've seen that in social media, and no one really comes up to me and thinks that my husband's running the company, and no one's going to half the women in this room, they're not going to them and thinking their boyfriend or their partner or their husband is running the company, and yet you get that all the time, and it's like, and you're constantly going, no, there's no shares. No, there's no position. No, there's not. And
yeah, well, and it is, and I think that also, right, though, but again, that goes back to what fuels you. And I know what I do. I know what I've done. I know how this company was built. I know that it was me in the back running manifestos, filling capsules, taking this brick by brick, making the hiring decisions. And putting the company together. And the reason that guy said that is because he sat down and I immediately started asking him, what kind of extraction equipment are you running? What kind of pounds are you getting? What's your efficiency? What kind of lights do you have? What's your square footage? How much power do you have? Just going down the list, right? Like I'm trying to quickly sum up evaluation so that when I go in the back and have a conversation in about an hour, I know whether or not this is an actual viable opportunity, right? And I think he was completely caught off guard by that. But as and I heard other panels talk about this today, as women, we don't just have to know our stuff. We have to know our stuff 3 levels deep. And so one of the other comments that I get from meetings is, wow, Kim really understands the business. Well, damn right, it's my job to understand the business, okay? So yeah, I'm not only gonna understand my business, I'm gonna understand it, again, 2 levels deep, because I don't get the luxury necessarily of being afforded the, assumption that I understand the business. So I need to make sure I can not only answer that question, but I can answer that question and the 2 follow-ups that you were gonna ask me before you have a chance to answer the follow-ups, because I'm gonna know my business better than any of the other boys that are my competitors. Hard, cold, and that's part of my job, and that's part of why we've been successful, and that's part of why we've had the results that we've had, because that's the expectation not just for me, but also for our team. And so you lead with results, you put the bullshit out of your mind, and you just win. And when you win enough, it doesn't matter what they say.
I do have a business question.
Of course you do.
I know. I can't help myself. I can't. And only because I think it kind of might be relatable to people in the room. A lot of companies end up merging, they end up combining. We just got acquired, so that happens a lot in cannabis because sometimes you feel like you're stronger together. And so everyone in cannabis knows it's got this reputation of what we call quickie marriages and shotgun divorces. So a lot of cannabis companies, people are sitting around smoking, yeah, we should do this together. This is a great idea. And then they do it, and then several months down the road, it's not such a great idea. It's not such a good combination. And then it's sometimes terrible words with each other, and it's just a messy situation. We've seen a lot of these messy situations in cannabis.
Yeah.
You guys bought Harvest Health.
Yep.
And Harvest Health came to you with a whole lot of baggage. How did you maneuver through that? Because clearly you got to look under the skirt. Sorry. That is such a Wall Street thing to say. Let me rephrase this so you guys so you understand what I'm saying. So in the investment banking world, there was a saying where they would call it lifting the skirt, opening the kimono, things like that, which was basically where you showed everything. You showed everything you had. So I say that now because it's just, I know, and it's so bro, and I say it myself. But okay, I'm getting okay.
I want to look under Steve White's skirt for the record, just so y'all know.
My son's here.
Okay, so I'm going to take this question, which I think is what she's about to ask me.
No. So yeah, what I was going to say was, how did you navigate that? Because that was a big acquisition, and it was a little messy.
Yeah, again, for those of you who don't know, we acquired Harvest Health and Recreation last year. It was, valued at the time of deal announcement. It's the largest deal in cannabis history, about $2 billion transaction. So, I mentioned recovering lawyer, M&A and securities. A couple of things. Number one, it was super important to create alignment early. And so Steve, who is the former CEO of Harvest, now currently Trulieve president, and I had a conversation that went something like this. Listen, there's gonna be a lot of lawyers, there's gonna be a lot of bullshit that happens over the next however long it takes us to get this from point A to point B into closing. You and I have got to be on the same page. If ever, in any time, up until the day before, you or I, either one of us basically, we have a veto card. Okay, we're just gonna agree to that. It's not gonna be in any document, it's not gonna be written down anywhere. It's just that if we feel that this is not the best thing for our companies, for our teams, for our shareholders, we each have an eject button. And it's not gonna be any hard feelings, it's gonna be what it will be. Having that conversation up front, which I know is easier said than done, I understand, because again, that whole lawyer thing, but having that conversation up front and being very purposeful about how we communicated and how we stayed in touch through that period while we were coming across issues. We actually ran a parallel business group, executive group, so it was myself, my CEO, my chief legal officer, same on his side. We would meet twice a week and we would go over all the messy stuff together, and we would come up with business solutions or not, right? To then drive and take back to the lawyers, as opposed to the other thing happening. I will just, little word of wisdom. Lawyers aren't always your friends in deals, okay? They get paid, I know because I was one, they reprogram your brain in law school to think of everything that can go wrong, okay? And so some lawyers are better than others in terms of understanding that their actual job is to get you to the closing table, right? Some people actually believe and take pride in not getting people to the closing table, which I'm not saying you should get to the closing table no matter what, but the business should drive the deal, not the other way around. So piece of advice, make sure that if you are entering ever into a transaction, that you and whoever your counterpart is are aligned and you guys are talking regularly and you're telling the lawyers, not the lawyers telling you, because I see that happen all the time. And so I think that really is one thing that we did that helped us navigate. And then secondly, when we closed the deal, guess what? Our people were working together. We all had relationships that were meaningful and substantive up to that point. So we were able to get the deal closed very fast. We got the deal closed in 5 months, which I think is somewhat of a record. 2, what did that allow us to do? We moved straight into strategic planning in Q4. We were able to get shoulder to shoulder, develop the strategic plan together as co-teams moving into Q1 of this year. Now we're in execution mode. So I think speed is important in a deal because time kills deals and time kills relationships and time kills momentum. I think secondly though, making sure you've got, again, robust communication and that you're really being purposeful again in terms of that communication cadence, addressing problems head on, calling out the elephants in the room. We had a go, no-go list where we were constantly, okay, here's the top 5 items. If we can't get past these 3, it's a no-go. I don't wanna waste your time, you don't wanna waste my time. We can clear these 3, great, let's go to the next 2, right? And so I think that, again, being singularly focused and also, again, wanting the teams to come out the other end with a workable model. If you hate each other and you tear each other down through the entire diligence process, guys, that's what happens. Then folks get married and they're looking at you like, but wait a minute, I actually hate you. Because you just cussed me out last week and then now you expect me to join hands and walk through this door like nothing happened, right? And then those old wounds start to resurface and then I think things can go downhill. But I'm really excited about it. I think that our footprint sets us up to have an amazing, not just this year, but into the future. And I feel great in terms of the future of our combined company.
Yeah, it was a big deal. I'm curious if anybody has any questions for Kim. I'm happy to open it up. Yes, Ms. Sellers.
Do you think Florida will go full adult use at any point here in the next couple years?
Yeah, so Florida, I think, is absolutely poised to go adult use. If we get on the ballot, we will, okay? So it's polling incredibly high. The challenge in Florida is Supreme Court review. Luckily, or unluckily, the Supreme Court gave us some significant guidance in their denial of 2 different types of amendments that were offered and who got to Supreme Court review over the last 24 months. So we feel like we've got a clear path in terms of what the court's looking for in terms of language. And there will absolutely be a push for a ballot initiative, so stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Back here.
Hi, my name is Carlos, Rodian with NYC GPA. My question is on your leadership and management for Earth Style. Earlier you called a room the war room. Ariana Huffington famously changed the war room at Uber into the peace room. Can you tell me a little bit about why you call it the war room and what steps have you taken to really cut toxic masculine culture in your workplace?
Sure. So, I call it the war room. That's just what it was called. There's really not anything there's not a, peace room's great. Maybe we'll change it. For me, it was really in that example, it was about everyone coming together as a C-suite and digging in and really reaching out on the front lines together to customers to make sure that One, we are, and I think it's really important for leadership. So this is my leadership style. I definitely am, and I think, the C-suite team is as well. We are an in the trenches group. We're very much a group that feels that it's very important to be authentic. It's very important to be authentic with one another. It's very important to be authentic with our employees. One thing that we have been implementing over the last couple of years, quite frankly, is our feedback loops and our robustness of our feedback loops and our participation in different key initiatives across our company, and so at different levels. So one thing that's really challenging about getting really freaking big is, well, there's a lot of things, but the examples that I want to talk about right now are getting away from both your employee base, who are on the front lines, who are really affecting your company every single day, as well as getting away from the customer. And so those are two things that I am very passionate about and that we are very passionate about. And so making sure that in those key initiatives, we have it's not just a manager up. We're pulling in folks from the front lines. We're, giving folks those opportunities to, one, be seen, be heard, their ideas validated, right? And really problem solve alongside of us so that, again, it's collaborative, it's inclusive, and the outcome can be a true shared outcome across the company. And the second thing is, in terms of getting close to the customer, I love to work grand openings. My team loves to work grand openings. We love to go in stores. 4:20, I was at Benzinga. I was supposed to have a meeting with the analyst. I said, listen, you want to have a meeting with me? You're getting in this Uber. We're going to one of my stores. I cannot be in this dimly lit conference room on 4:20. What am I doing with my life? So, right? So making sure, and it does become more challenging because, I love all y'all, but I could be on a stage every day, and that's not necessarily how I connect with my customers and how our team connects with our customers. So I think trying to be also in this changing craziness that's happened over the last 12 months and the pressures on folks, giving room and space for folks to bring their whole selves into the conversation. And again, like we were talking about before, space to say, I'm tired. I'm tired, I'm gonna need a minute, this weekend I need to do X, Y, and Z and being okay with that, knowing that they're gonna come back in recharged and refreshed in this crazy, scaling, fast-paced, nutso world, right? And so, I don't know if that answers your question or not. That's just a little bit about my style and kind of how we approach different elements of the business.
Hi, my name is Patricia Pack, in the digital sphere known as Canvas, and I recently launched a ancillary business for business needs membership. Those in the ancillary space, our question really is in terms of the corporate level, and in terms of diversity inside the corporation. I know you said that you have now 50% movement on the board. Has the company been able to do anything to help small business people in that respect? Because I'm very creative, but scaling is a difficult process if you don't really have the experience. You haven't been at Goldman Sachs.
I wasn't at Goldman Sachs, just so you know. Yeah, that was her. But yeah, scaling's hard. Scaling's hard. Scaling is absolutely tough. So for small businesses, we do a number of things. First of all, we have and launched. I don't know why I would read it, but we're the first cannabis company to come out with an ESG report, and so we actually have metrics that we're publishing and that we're held accountable to ourselves, which I think is really important. I'm hopeful that other cannabis companies will join us in that effort, because I think that transparency in terms of what we're doing in some of these areas I think is really critical. In that, we talked about our supplier diversity program as an example, where we are holding ourselves again accountable for certain metrics in the supplier diversity sphere, which oftentimes are small businesses in each of our markets and diverse businesses in each of our markets, and how we're making a purposeful effort to reach out and include those in a meaningful way that again is measured and then reported on. As it relates to other small business initiatives, We have partnered with, in a pretty meaningful way, Minorities for Medical Marijuana over the years to hold workshops and to help folks who are entering the space or thinking about entering the space, because we all know, I know, that licensing is all great, but people give you a license and then what? And do people really know what they're getting themselves into when they get a license? Because again, we all know that owning a retail location is hard, really hard, and then in life, and then in this space, when you take away business deductions, when you add 280E, et cetera, it becomes really, really hard. And so do folks who are signing up actually understand and have the resources to know what it takes from license award to actual survival? I'm not gonna even say profitability, I'm gonna say survival, because that's the first step, and then you hope to get to profitability. So, we're looking for new ways to partner all the time, is what I would say, and we are, I think, very, we try to be as transparent as we can in terms of what initiatives we are engaged in.
I would like to know, how long did it take Trulieve to, well, first of all, let me say, I just love this lady, because I invested in this stock of Trulieve, and all these different stocks, and hers just blew everybody.
Yeah, so we started in 2000 and really I started in this journey with Trulieve specifically in 2014. We became profitable in, I want to say, early 2018. We were awarded our license in 2015. So, it took a while. It takes a while, right? And I mentioned I wasn't taking a salary. Many others, in our founder group were taking salaries. And so it's definitely a struggle. I mean, I remember vividly writing a $25,000 personal check to the Florida Medical Association to headline sponsor their conference. And we had the logo on the wall, And we had a table outside, and they voted at that conference that there was no medical benefit to cannabis while we were the sponsor. It was awesome. So things like that were happening initially. So it's a tough slog, and certainly that's what I mean, like communicate the hard stuff, right? And making sure that folks understand that this isn't, you don't just open and it starts raining money, and and then it's all sunshine and roses. It's tough to get from point A to point B. It's tough in any startup, but let alone a startup where you have roadblocks that are stacked against you. You can't take advantage of SBA loans, right? You can't take advantage of normalized corporate deductions. You can't take advantage of certain strategic planning methods that would allow you to reach profitability sooner.
We have any other questions? Oh,
Yeah, someone spoke to your turnover earlier today. Could you speak to yours? And also, it sounds like you're speaking a lot about DE&I work, belonging and inclusiveness. Could you speak to that agenda in your company and how you sustain that?
Sure. So in terms of turnover, I would say that we're under, what the statistical norm is on, for each segment of our business. So we have lower turnover than and I don't have the stats completely on me, so I apologize for that. I'd be happy to get them to you. With respect to, for example, on retail there's going to be turnover. And in manufacturing, when you're talking about line work and shift work, there is, a certain level of turnover for sure. I am proud to say that our turnover rate is definitely lower than the norm. In terms of what we are, continuing to focus on is we just, for example, last year, and I think someone here was talking about, how they address the hourly employees, right? Because there is, as you get larger, there's definitely a divide between your part-time hourly workers, right, and then your salaried employees. And so looking at that benefit package, looking at how we can remain competitive with that benefit package, for me, it was very important during COVID to make sure that every single one of my employees had access to healthcare, right? That was a critical mission for me. And so we invested heavily in upgrading our healthcare benefits, because I didn't want folks going into hospitals. I felt very personally responsible, particularly with my frontline workers. Average age is a little younger, away from home. I've had visions of it. I couldn't. I'm a mom. So, investing in making sure that every single employee, regardless of status, had access to medical insurance and to healthcare was really important. In terms of DEI, again, check out our ESG report because there's lots of stats in there. So I want to make sure that, again, I get this right. But DEI to us, there's internal and external. I could talk an hour about what we do. I say this often, and you all know this, I think, but it's statistically true that the most profitable businesses, that women and diverse businesses, diverse thought leadership are more profitable than those that do not have a diversity at the table. So for me, I always say, it pisses me, I get very frustrated when I see companies that have, DEI or diversity as a check the box, right? And if it's not part of your core business and you're not looking around the table and saying, how am I making sure that I'm not surrounded by yes people and that there is true diversity of thought, you're doing not only yourself, but your business and your shareholders a disservice. And it is about profitability. That is part of it, and it needs to be ingrained in who you are. And so for me, that's been very much a focus from the very beginning. So we measure not just straight up diversity stats, we also measure at levels, because it's also important to me to understand how are we advancing those folks throughout the organization and making sure that we're promoting them forward. Because it'd be super easy to give you a stat that talks about our retail level or our manufacturing level, right? That it glosses over the fact that how are those folks actually making their way up and advancing through the organization. I'm very proud of our statistics. So we are, I want to say, we are at like 35% in terms of our from a leadership perspective, which we measure at senior manager and up. Again, our women leadership statistics are off the charts because it is one of my stated and externally stated goals that I want to be the cannabis company of choice for women. Period. Hard stop in terms of career opportunities. Also, though, we have that responsibility externally. So I can't talk the talk if I'm not walking the walk. So that's where our internal programs come from. We also have ESGs, and we have all kinds of connectivity across all kinds of different, which we can talk about. Okay, externally, we have chosen to make investment in majority minority communities. Our first investment, we are the largest employer in Gaston County, Florida. It's a majority minority community. We have transformed that community. That is very real, it is very tangible. We have done the same thing in our choice to invest in Holyoke, Massachusetts, which is another majority minority community. So we purposely look for ways that we can impact communities in a real way. We are also involved in a plethora, we spend millions of dollars supporting organizations that also advance DEI work and DEI initiatives, regardless of if that benefits us directly, because it all comes back around, right? So I mentioned, we do expungement clinics across a number of states, and we're very heavily involved. We've helped hundreds of folks clear their records. I'm very proud of that work. I am also very involved in DC and was involved in the effort, that you guys hopefully just read about as it relates to the the Biden work that was done. So I think that no one should be in jail for cannabis, not while I'm sitting here and we're sitting here enjoying today. So I'm very passionate about that as well. But yeah, we can talk a lot about it.
All right, thank you so much. And I want to really thank Kim for taking the time out.